Kazuya decides to bring Kukuri some pudding too, only to find that their temporary shrine has been demolished by the city after some parents complained about it being a safety hazard to children. Seeing this, Kiriha takes pity on them and invites them to stay with Kazuya and her. This is initially met with opposition from Kazuya's sister and father, but Kazuya's father quickly changes his mind when Kiriha threatens to blackmail him with the embarrassing love letters that he wrote to Kazuya's mother when they were teenagers. Sometime later, Kazuya's sister grows tired of Kiriha always lounging around the house doing nothing but eating snacks and watching anime recaps, so she forces her to help prepare dinner. She then sends Kazuya and the girls to go buy extra ingredients at the supermarket. But when they arrive there and Kazuya refuses to buy Kiriha some pudding, she begins to throw a tantrum, until he eventually gives in to her demands. He then decides to buy Kukuri some sweets too, and she begins to imagine what being married to him would be like. And when they return home, the two girls happily enjoy their desserts together. The next day at school, Kazuya finds that Shiro has mysteriously become incredibly popular with women, and they quickly realize that Shiro's been using a perfume possessed by an amasogi, which instantly makes the wearer popular with all the girls that smell it. When the boys in school hear about this, however, they all fight to have the perfume for themselves, forcing Kazuya to take Shiro away to the roof, where he convinces him to destroy the perfume. But it instead bounces up and covers Kazuya. The effects soon become apparent when he races home after being chased by several girls throughout town. But when he arrives home, Kazuya is relieved to see that his sister is still acting normally around him. So he hops into the bath to try to wash away the scent, but is soon joined by his sister, much to his embarrassment. One by one, the girls of the house all enter the bathroom and join Kazuya in the tub. Wish that was me. The next day at school, Shiro begins emitting a foul stench for the whole week straight, as a consequence of not destroying the bottle properly. As time goes on, Kazuya and Kiriha continue to train by doing mock battles with Kukuri, but Kiriha becomes more and more infuriated as they continue to lose. The next day, Kazuya, Chisato, and Osamu are summoned by the student council president to investigate the appearance of an amasogi that has taken on the appearance of a girl named Aiko, who had taken her own life 2 years prior. During their investigation, they run into Nanako, a member of the school's newspaper club who is also investigating the same case. Suddenly, Aiko appears and attacks the group, but she manages to escape after Kazuya successfully fends off her attacks. As they continue their investigation and consolidate clues, they uncover information about Aiko's little sister being enrolled at their school, under the name Nanako. They race to find her and eventually confront her about this new information. Nanako then explains that she was deeply distraught by her sister's death, and after finding a lock of her hair, it transformed into an amasogi. She blamed her sister's death on the students who bullied her, but when Nanako reads Aiko's final letter, which had been kept hidden from her, she learns that Aiko took her life due to an amasogi that had began growing on her chest, and that it soon began demanding the death of Nanako, forcing Aiko to end her life in order to save her sister. Heartbroken that her sister died for her, Aiko transforms into an even stronger amasogi that feeds off of Nanako's negative energy. Kazuya struggles to combat it at first, but through Kiriha's coaching, he eventually gains the upper hand and defeats it. Kiriha then encourages Nanako to try and find a reason to live, because if she continues wishing to die, then her sister's death would have been for nothing. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl watches from afar. While leaving school the next day, Kazuya is attacked by Sunao, another exorcist. And when Kiriha comes to his defense, Sunao is forced to reveal her partner, Kotetsu, who transforms into a sword. But as the fight comes to an end, she expresses her disappointment in Kazuya's fighting ability and calls him unfit to be Kiriha's wielder. The four of them then head to Kazuya's home, where Kukuri explains that she had given Sunao permission to test Kazuya's abilities, which Kiriha punishes her for. Sunao then explains that when she was a child, Kazuya's mother had killed the amasogi responsible for her brother's death, depriving her of the opportunity to get revenge. As such, she became fixated on defeating Kazuya's mother instead, but could never match her in battle, which is why she is sickened by Kazuya's inexperience. She then tells Kazuya that he is unfit to be his mother's replacement and challenges him to a duel over Kiriha, which Kiriha agrees to, despite Kazuya remaining silent. That night, Kazuya becomes depressed as he reflects on all the trouble he's caused thus far, and feels that it's best to just let Sunao become his mother's replacement. However, Kiriha grows impatient with him and forces him to strip to embarrass him. She then begins encouraging him to fight by reassuring him that she'll always be on his side no matter what, and tells him that if he wins, she'll reward him. Kiriha then suddenly reverts back to her original adult form, and the two begin thinking of a plan to win the upcoming duel. Kazuya and Kiriha then spend the next few days training to prepare for Tsunao's sword techniques, since their cloth powers are naturally disadvantaged against swords. Meanwhile, Tsunao also trains with her local deity and becomes convinced that there's no way she'll lose, despite Kotetsu warning her not to underestimate Kazuya. That night, while Kazuya and Kiriha get ready for bed, he proclaims that he'll win no matter what and that he won't let anything happen to Kiriha. This greatly embarrasses her, as she was previously always the one protecting him. On the day of the duel, Tsunao thinks about Kazuya being unworthy of being his mother's successor, while Kazuya thinks about his responsibility for attracting Amasogi and how Tsunao treats Kotetsu like a tool. Once the duel begins, Kazuya attacks immediately with a new doll technique that he devised with Kiriha, but Tsunao pierces through it. And as the fight continues, Tsunao finds herself more and more pressured by Kazuya's new techniques that she's never seen before. Finally seeing an opening, Tsunao goes in for the final strike. But her attack is blocked by Kazuya's hand weave technique, and he immediately counterattacks. Kotetsu then warns her about conserving her energy, but she ignores him. The fight then suddenly comes to a standstill as both combatants plan their next moves. Despite being stronger with his ranged attacks, Kazuya tells Kiriha that he's not willing to play it safe to ensure victory, as he wants to beat Tsunao at her full strength to prove that Kiriha and Kotetsu are more than just tools. Kazuya then charges at her while she concentrates her energy to use her secret technique, known as Hibikiri. At that same time, Kazuya and Kiriha become one, and his hair turns into a glowing white, while his eyes turn a bright red. This is called Ascension, which is a controlled state similar to being possessed by an Amasogi that can only be used by highly skilled exorcists. Kazuya then wraps his arms in cloth to parry Tsunao's attacks, and the two continue to trade blows in deadly melee combat, with neither one giving an inch to their opponent, until Kazuya ends up breaking Kotetsu and uses his finishing move to put an end to the fight. With Kazuya declared the winner, Tsunao gracefully accepts defeat and learns to cherish Kotetsu more. As they say their goodbyes, they decide to go back home to celebrate, but Kazuya collapses from fatigue, a side effect of using Ascension. That night, Kiriha remembers that she promised Kazuya to reward him for winning, so she strips him down and rewards him by washing every inch of his body with Kukuri's help, as she once again fantasizes about being married to Kazuya. The next morning, Kukuri is shocked to find Kazuya and Kiriha in bed together with no clothes on. Meanwhile, Tsunao's mother reprimands her for causing trouble and losing a duel. She then says that the only way Tsunao can inherit the family estate now is if she marries the man who defeated her. Later on at school, the class is introduced to a new exchange student. To their surprise, the new student is Kiriha. But when the other male students see how close she is with Kazuya, they grow jealous and demand to know the nature of their relationship, to which Kiriha replies that they are intimately familiar.